Hello, doctors. On today's program, what I want to talk about is what is the easiest way to get an attorney's attention? So a lot of doctors in the injury market, they're scrambling and saying, hey, I want attorney referrals. I want attorney referrals, or I want to keep my attorney referrals, or I want to expand my attorney referrals. I want to get attorneys to love me and to send me lots of referrals. They want to make money on settlements. They want to make money on being able to turn cases, and I want to be their doctor that provides them with the services. Now, why do I want to be the doctor that provides them with the services? Well, because I basically, if I have an attorney firm that's sending me 5 cases a month, those 5 cases a month, if I'm billing, let's just use for a round figure, $10,000 a case, obviously that attorney firm is sending me $50,000 worth a month worth of business. That's $600,000 worth of business a year. That is a very, very lucrative source of referrals. It's no different. If I was a dentist and I was basically doing veneers and I had a service that would basically, I had a smaller, dental service or dental provider that didn't do veneers. And I'm out to all the dental providers saying, hey, dental providers, I do veneers. And now all of a sudden I have a dental provider that sends, and I make, $10,000 per or $20,000 per set of veneers that I basically put on people's teeth. And I have I have a dental firm that doesn't do it, and they refer me 10 new clients a month. That is a huge business builder for my business. Now, one of the things that's problematic with that is if I only have one of those and it goes away, that can be a serious problem for my business as well. So, there's a lot of issues, and I'm not going to talk about all the issues because I have lots of podcasts to do on these issues. But one of the easiest ways to track the attention of an attorney, especially a personal injury attorney, is very easily to point out that in the majority of cases with a spinal injury, their cases are flawed because the injuries that the person has are not fully diagnosed. This is rampant in the spinal injury world today. It's so rampant, it's unreal. Everywhere I look in the spinal injury world, whether I look at research, whether I look at experts, whether I look at the market itself, whether I look in providers' offices, whether I review records and do records review, whether I go over and do attorney consultations and look at attorney consultation reviews, whether I'm working with the doctors themselves, everywhere I look, there's documentation of the injuries because there's not an understanding of the injuries, right? When you have a spine and you injure it, or you have any body part, you have to derange it when you injure it. So if I broke my arm, I actually have to derange the bone in my arm in order to say I broke it. Now, how badly deranged? If the humerus is sticking out of the skin and it's not even close to being attached, that's a really bad fracture, right? So you determine the severity and location of any injury by how deranged that body part is. So when you say spinal injuries are the number one cause of chronic pain and disability in the market today. They're the most expensive injuries in the market today, bar none. And why employers, why insurers, why anybody puts up with how badly managed this market is, I have no idea. Because it's really bad, and it's gotten a lot worse. It's not gotten better. So when you injure a spine is bone and connective tissue. Now, I'm not talking about it has a cord that runs through it, has nerves that run out of it. That's the nervous system. That's not the spine. It has muscles around it. That's not the spine. That's the muscles around it. All right. So what I'm talking about is just the spine. If somebody says they injured their spine, and spinal injuries are, again, the number one cause of chronic pain and disability, then you have either to derange the bone or to derange the connective tissue or to derange both. Now, we're going to separate fractures because the majority of whiplash injuries, a huge industry today. The majority of work injuries are not fractures. The majority of sports injuries are not fractures. The majority of spine injuries are not fractures. So I'm not going to talk about fractures today. What I'm going to talk about is connective tissue injuries. Connective tissue is, there are 220 specialized ligaments that hold the spine together. There are 23 of those which are discs. So this little teeny tiny minority of ligament that holds the spine together, and it's an important ligament, but it's not the only ligament. This teeny tiny fraction of ligament that is the disc is the one that's most studied. It's the one that's most looked at. Now, if you really look at it, it's crazy. So people are addicted to MRIs. Doctors get addicted to it. Attorneys get addicted to it. Patient's going to go in a lay down MRI. If anybody's ever herniated their spine, what is the position that you want to be in when you herniate your spine? You want to be flat on your back. It feels a hell of a lot better in most cases. Now, why? Well, because it's going to take the pressure. If there's pressure on the herniation, on the nerve, or there's pressure on the connective tissue itself, and the connective tissue itself, the herniation can pressure that connective tissue, and it can also be, you have fibers in the connective tissue called the disc that can also be causing a lot of pain. And so the pressure on the disc is the least. So if you wanted to have the least amount of pressure on a human disc on this planet Earth, it would be laying flat on the ground on your back. So of course, that's where we want to image to see if we have a damaged disc, is when it's in the least painful, least pressure-filled position. That's one problem. Now, the other problem is that, again, there's only about 5 discs that routinely herniate. 2 or 3 in the 3 in the cervical spine, 2 in the lumbar spine. So we're not looking at all of the other ligament damage that there is. So you can have disc herniation and you can have excessive motion. If you shear the ligaments, you're going to have excessive motion. And excessive motion is the most problematic thing that you have in the market today. So if you want to go to attorneys, you want to impress attorneys, you want to talk to attorneys, like, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? Oh my gosh. You want to talk about the fact that they're missing ligament injuries because they're not doing it. They don't know anything about excessive motion testing. Now, I want you to think about this right now. Right now, if you were on the cusp of a new technology called MRI, because remember, MRI is a new technology. It hasn't been around all that long. And it was originally, it was designed for cancer. It wasn't designed for musculoskeletal conditions such as spinal conditions. Right? So, but all of a sudden it caught on. All right? And the doctors that understood it, and the first doctors that understood it, made a fortune, made an absolute fortune using it to drive all their services, drive all their reimbursements, drive all their referrals, drive everything. Right? So now if you could actually take and go out and teach a market that there's a technology that basically shows how badly damaged the spine is. And it includes the use of MRI when needed, but it doesn't allow the spinal injuries to be missed. And you can teach attorneys about that. You can teach attorneys about that through CLE. You can teach attorneys about that through your blog posts. You can teach attorneys and the public and medical. You can teach whoever you want to about it. You can be the king in your area. Absolutely the king. And it doesn't matter. I don't care if you're DC, a DO, an MD, an orthopedist, a neurologist, a physiatrist, doctor of physical therapy. Doesn't matter. If you're doing spinal injury work, you can be an absolute expert in this niche. And it's absolutely a niche. It's so niche right now. Niche means a specialized area of a market separate and unique from other areas. That's what a niche is. It's so niche right now because there's so few doctors in it. So it's like the easiest niche in the market to exploit. And so that's why I set up the Smart Injury Doctors Program. The Smart Injury Doctors Program was to make doctors out there really experts at the injuries to the spine, to know that, look, there's 220 ligaments and you got to check. The only way you damage the spine is through shear and compressive force. So you have to check the excessive motion to see if you've got ligament damage. You have to know how to use the MRI. And then you can take this out and you can talk to attorneys all day long. And it may not be the first time that you talk to them. Remember, you didn't meet your girlfriend or your boyfriend and marry them on the first date. You didn't go, hey, we went from the first date to the judge's office to get married. All right? Relationships are built. They're built over time, but you have to have something to start with. And one of the key things that you can start with is what loses if I go to a doctor of chiropractic or an orthopedist and I go to them with what loses them money, they're interested. All right. So what loses attorneys a lot of money is the fact that they don't understand ligament injuries, ligament damage, and they're drunk on MRI because they don't understand it. So they're drunk on something that's not all that helpful. There's other things that they can get drunk on where it's like euphoric. That's what you have to offer them. And that's what I teach doctors to be able to go out and talk about. On these podcasts, I take a topic and I exploit that topic a little bit. These are meant to be short, sweet, to the point, hopefully helpful, hopefully give you something to think about. If you have any questions, concerns, problems, things that you hate about the injury market, things that you love about the injury market, put those comments down below because that gives me things to talk about in the future podcasts. And again, doctors, I appreciate, or anybody who's listening today, I appreciate your time. These are meant to be short, sweet, and to the point, and I look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Thank you.